The Chicago Bears sound like they have their defensive end options in mind, and dare I say, they are a little bit high on what they have available to them per Jeremy Fowler. We got to talk about that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page. Do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. Only channel talk Chicago sports, how Chicago talk. So make sure that you stay in tune with us, man. Listen, we have heard about two names that the Chicago Bears have talked about here that they feel are real options for them moving forward. Got to talk about Shamar Turner and Jordan Vanderberg. It seems like the Bears believe that they have their defensive end options in these two names, of course, with some of the names that are already on the list. But I thought seeing this, right, starting off with Shamar Turner here, because Ryan Poles said something that really perked my ears up when he was talking after the draft. And it was asked about, look, we know what you came into the draft with. We know there were some questions on what you had opposite of Montez Sweat, and you didn't address it. How do you feel like you're going to fix this? And he said, at the defensive line, right, we're looking at Books coming along with Dayo, Sweat, and then he threw in a name that I think a lot of us thought was going to be an interior name for the Bears here, Shamar Turner. Now, Shamar Turner came out of college as a defensive tackle. He did have some inside-outside versatility, so it's not to say that he didn't have that ability. We even saw him play some of that during the season last year before he ended up getting hurt in that Week 5 game. But Shamar Turner at defensive end might be an option that Dennis Allen looks at as a viable one. And listen, I'm not saying that this is an apples-to-apples situation, but if you're going into the draft, you would assume that if it is a massive need in the mind of your defensive coordinator, that you need to find an option for that guy opposite Montez Sweat, that would be something that would be a little bit higher on the list than maybe your third tight end at this point, or a gadget guy that maybe you could have gotten a little bit later on in the draft. But what I do think is interesting here is when you see Ryan Poles throw that name into the mix, you start to look and say, okay, well, is this a guy that fits what Dennis Allen wants to do at the defensive end position? Is he going to be somebody who makes a heck of a lot of sense in that? But like, you drafted a guy to be one position. Now you're going to put him at another position. But when you start to look at the history of the guys that Dennis Allen has had, let's be real about this, right? Cam Jordan is the main guy that everyone is still going to. Cam Jordan, somebody that people are saying the Bears should go out and sign, 36 years old. He'll be 37 by the time the season starts. And he is 6'4", 287 pounds, and has been a sack monster and been able to set the edge on the run there. So then I went, okay, well, where are we looking at with Shamar Turner here? Shamar Turner, 6'3", 293 pounds, a guy who in a previous defense definitely would have been on the inside. But in this defense, we have seen Dennis Allen utilize a build like this for the outside. And so at the end of the day, do we believe that Dennis Allen could be looking at Shamar Turner as a defensive end answer here for the Chicago Bears? I think that that's a conversation that you have to have at this point, along with a guy like Austin Booker, who we have seen fit in and have some good success there. But bottom line of it all, you're probably not adding, and I talked with Courtney Cronin about this on today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Make sure to tune in. She says they're going to battle with the guys that they have here. They're going to enter training camp with the guys that they have available to them. And if that is the case, you would think that Shamar Turner probably is going to be pretty high on that list for Dennis Allen and the guys that he views as answers for him at that defensive end position. Now, we have no idea what Shamar Turner is at the NFL level. We just don't, right? We haven't seen him out there. We don't know what he's capable of. We don't know what kind of player he could be. But I do think that the Bears are going to give him a heck of a lot of run this year coming into the season, more on that outside than on the inside, especially when you pair that up with, yes, you're still throwing Dayo Odeyingbo's name in there, but Ryan Poles has said it. Dayo Odeyingbo has been suited better on the inside as a run stuffer than he is on the outside. Does that make sense for what you paid him? No. But at this point, you got to go with what the guy is. Don't sit there and try and make him something he's not. He is a kind of interior player that we saw play better on the interior than the exterior. Utilize him for what you have. And if you can find a way to swap those guys around and get more out of Shamar Turner on the edge than you got on the inside, and maybe he is your now moving forward defensive end piece that is a massive part of this defense, I think that that's a world that they're going to have to explore. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below, because realistically, if that is the case, you're talking about a guy who, remember last year, he was the question in the second round. Luther Burden was a question as well, but he was the guy where you were like, well, you got defensive interior. Why are you going and drafting Shamar Turner right now? And at the end of the day, maybe the Bears view him more as a defensive end than they do as a defensive tackle. We'll see. Health is still a massive issue in all of this, right? He comes in his rookie year. He's already banged up his rookie year. So health is going to be the biggest question, the biggest issue that you're going to have, question marks on moving forward. Is he going to be able to bounce back from that? But I think if the Bears are looking at that as a plan, I don't hate it. I just think you're going into this season with a massive question mark. Like I said, let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Another guy that is on the list for the Chicago Bears here that I think could be very interesting for them, and that it seems like per Jeremy Fowler today, who did a little bit of a deep dive into everything that the Bears, it did all 32 teams, but some things that the Bears did in the draft that makes them feel like, we're pretty set here going into this season here. He said a few different things here. Number one, the Bears decided to trade up, or eyed a trade up, I should say, in the second round, but chose to stand pat. They were high on Tennessee cornerback Colton Hood, who went number 37 to the Giants. Chicago figured its number 25 pick, Oregon safety Dylan Thieneman, would be gone in the top 20, so perhaps he would have been a viable fallback option there if Thieneman was off the board. The Bears also believe that they are getting a steal in defensive tackle Jordan Vanderberg out of Georgia Tech. Several of his testing numbers hit the highest marks on the Bears' internal scouting scale. My sense is the Bears have plans for him beyond the typical 6th-round flyer and believe he was one of the more gifted defensive tackles in this draft. So yet again, you're going with the name that maybe isn't the hot name, maybe isn't the sexy name, but you have a high level of belief that this guy is going to be a little bit more than just a gap piece. And we've seen that the last couple of seasons with how the Bears have dealt with late round picks. Remember, the entire time that we've been under this Ryan Poles regime, he has felt very confident about what these late round picks can do. Now, when I look at a guy like Jordan Van Den Berg, I don't think that you're seeing off the scale stats, and you're not seeing off the scale play on the field, but you're now putting him in a position here where he's going to get developed by NFL, head coaching. I don't know why I had a stroke right there. To me, I think he could be another answer for you inside, which maybe allows you to move Dayo to that outside a little bit more and maybe get some more production. Remember, early in the season on passing downs, you were seeing a lot out of Dayo. I know a motivated Dayo Odeyingbo is not the answer that anybody is looking for, but if you have high belief on the interior for a guy like Jordan Van Den Berg, that means that you now have a little bit more flexibility on that inside, and he could be somebody who maybe takes those Dayo minutes and makes some of the guys on the interior a little bit more expendable that have that dual threat that they can play more on the outside. Again, I don't see a ton of greatness from a Jordan Van Den Berg, but the one thing that you cannot deny, tackles for loss from the interior is an impressive stat, and it feels like the Chicago Bears are going to be good at one thing, and maybe this is where Dayo Odeyingbo comes in as an answer on the edge. If you are able to shore up the run to the inside and you've got guys on the outside that can play the run well, that can improve you defensively, because now you're going to make offenses a little bit more one-dimensional, and you're not going to be able to answer both questions at the same time. But if you come into this season and you say, look, on the interior, you are not going to be able to run on us. We've got Neville Gallimore. They have a belief in Jordan Van Den Berg, who had 11 tackles for loss, had 3 sacks from an interior position, 6.5 sacks over his entire college career. If you have that level of belief in a guy like that on the inside, why not continue to try out a Dayo Odeyingbo on the outside? Maybe he is able to help you in the run game a little bit more. The pass rush game, I think, is still going to be an issue for you unless you see a guy like Shamar Turner really step up in that role. But the bottom line is, can the Bears get better at something on the defensive line? If you make teams one-dimensional where it's, hey, if you want to pass this football all day, you go right ahead. We've got the DBs to get out there and do it. It's not a philosophy I would go with, but it seems like it's going to be the Bears' philosophy this season. I wouldn't be mad if the Bears become a team yet again that you can't run the football on, right? And we saw that at moments last season when the Bears' defensive line was healthy, where you looked out there and you were just like, yo, like, if we're being honest, we're shutting this run down. You are not going to be able to move the football on this team. And then, of course, that ends up falling off a cliff as the injuries start to pile up. But if you can get back to that, if you can be that version of this Bears team, I think now all of a sudden you become a heck of a lot more dangerous, because you can't just turn around and hand the football off to whatever the running back is in the position to put you in good spots. And I remember last season, Deshaun Wright said something to me that I thought was very, very true as the season moved on and progressed while the team was, for the most part, healthy. You saw a team that if their opponent was in 3rd and long, the Bears did a good job covering that. Now, again, as injuries pile up, as things fall apart, you don't see that. But while this defense was healthy, and the hope is that this is going to be a healthy defense, more improved health this season, because you're going to know how to prepare yourself, going to know how to train for whatever it is that is coming. To me, I look at this as, okay, the Bears are now going into this season saying our plan is to be able to shut the run down. Devin Bush, Neville Gallimore, Javon Dexter in a way, although he wasn't very good at either one last season. Excuse me. When you look at what you could add on the interior with Dayo Odeyingbo, if you believe that Jordan Van Den Berg is going to be a big TFL guy at the NFL level because of some of the measurables that he had. And listen, like when you're talking about a guy up front, strength is not a knock at all. 35 reps of 225. Good to see, right? You want to see that this guy is strong. I think the shuttle speed, 419 shuttle, he's got a 36-inch vert, which can help at the line for you if you need to get up there. 6'3", 310 pounds. Gonna be able to create some sort of, you're not getting past me, and definitely was better as a run stuffer than he was as a pass rusher at the college level. Like, those are the things to me that when you look out and you say, okay, if this Bears team can stop the run, now it gives you a little bit more of a chance in those 3rd and long situations to be the turnover merchants that you were last season, to be the team that kind of knew, okay, we can play with everything in front of us here, but we've also got speed on the back end to help us out. Again, is it the plan that I would have went with coming into this season? Probably not. But at the end of the day, is it a plan that we could see that works to get you to a point where your defense is a top 15 defense in the NFL? Yeah. And with the amount of offense that it feels like this Bears team is planning on creating this season, one of the most explosive offenses in football last season, going to have a heck of a lot of continuity coming into this year, going to have a heck of a lot more options available to you coming into this season this year, as far as different gadget plays and things like that. When you add in the new receiver that we brought in via the draft, right? Like, those are things to me that I think puts the Chicago Bears in a really, really advantageous situation. And now all of a sudden, if you're able to play with the lead, maybe you don't have as many turnovers, but if you have 22 turnovers this season and you score on 15, 16 of them, and you're creating a better percentage in that world, right? Now, all of a sudden, you're having a conversation of, okay, you're one of the best offenses of taking advantage of turnovers. You're putting points on the board. You're putting 7, not 3 on the board. And now, all of a sudden, you're playing from a position of lead. How often did we see this defensive line at all play with a position of need? Again, I think that it is a risky plan to take, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it is a plan that has no hope of working. I think it's one that the Chicago Bears could find a way to be successful in. Now, are there a lot of ifs in it? 100%. I think you're literally having a conversation right now on if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Like, at the end of the day, the entire thing is built off of if Shamar Turner is able to hit at the defensive end position, if Jordan Van Den Berg is a steal at the defensive line, if Grady Jarrett, Javon Dexter, and Dayo Odeyingbo are healthy, right? Like, you're having the if conversation no matter what. But I don't look at this as a situation where all is lost and hope is dead on the defensive line if this plan ends up working. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below, man. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. As always, it is your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. We'll be live tonight for the show with the boys in here, man, having a good time, probably talking about a little NBA playoffs as well. So make sure that you guys stay tapped in with us on that. As always, man, y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.